Hey everyone, it is Sunday. I was supposed to be at a tournament, but instead I'm going to be making a ball review video, which is my favorite types of videos to post. I have on good old Henry Rollins Band, one of my favorite bands from the 90s, and let's see who we're going to be throwing today. Alright, so this is our review ball. Specs the new Hammer 3D Offset, a sanded pearl asymmetrical core. That's going to be really interesting. And because it's a pearl but sanded and asymmetrical, we're going to review against the two realities. We got Duca and we got Dream, the Altered Reality Dark Knight, and regular reality pearl asym and solid asym. And then we have Dark Code, also asymmetrical, also a pearl. But Rob Green, in his infinite wisdom, sanded down Dark Code recently, changed the cover, made it a little bit rougher, a little bit grabbier. So in a certain way, this Dark Code should be relatively similar to the 3D Offset, but let's see how it goes. Alright everyone, so yes, so we are going to be doing a ball review on the new Hammer 3D Offset. But first, I just wanted to say that this video is now brought to you by AJ's Pro Shop in Northampton, Massachusetts. Alan Jasmine, who runs AJ's, is probably the best guy I know. He's been so helpful and thankful in bowling, and it's really the least I could do. I'm not getting paid for this. This is just me trying to help out the Western Massachusetts bowling community, and Al is really a great guy. He really knows his stuff. He's never the type of pro shop owner that's just going to push something on you. He really wants you to do your best job at bowling and have a good time, and I just can't thank him enough, and so this is how I'm trying to thank him back. So just visit AJ's Pro Shop. I'm going to put a link in the description for this video, as well as put a link directly to the Hammer 3D Offset, and so you can support Al and support my channel. I appreciate it. So let's sort of look at numbers real quick. My favorite data-driven bowling website, Bowling This Month, and another website I really like that is not paying me. Maybe one day it'll happen, but nonetheless, I wanted to unfortunately say that the Hammer 3D Offset is not up on Bowling This Month yet, but of course, Dream and Duca and Atom Smasher are, so we can sort of get a base from them and see kind of like where this comparison is going to start. So first of all, Altered Reality and Reality, the two realities, same numbers, RG 249, total diff 0.52, but one thing I want to point out, especially in this video, is the internal diff. Internal diff I didn't dive into when going over the last set of numbers when I was doing a ball review, so I just want to point that out. Both of them are asymmetrical, same thing with Dark Code, another asymmetrical, and the Altered Reality and Dark Code are pearls, while the regular reality is a reactive solid. So going down to the chart of comparison, we see here that the Dark Code is going to have less of a hook and a bit more length than the realities. The Altered Reality has a fair amount of hook more than Dark Code and a little bit less length, and then the regular reality is the monster with the I think the most hook of any ball on the market right now, and a pretty short length, so it hooks heavy and it hooks early, just total snow tires. This is a strong cover. So let's look at Hammer's listing for the 3D Offset. First, it's really interesting when you feel this ball in your hand, because it doesn't feel like a pearl, but this ball is a pearl. It's a pearl reactive. But the finish has been sanded. So it's a sanded pearl. What does that mean exactly? Basically, you're taking a weak cover, a pearl being a weak cover, and trying to add a bit of length and a bit of grip to it. So that's the first kind of like interesting thing about it. Also looking at the core, a very strong asymmetric core, as you can see with the realities, if they have them listed here. They don't, but the realities have this sort of like heavy block. For any Star Trek nerds, it resembles like a Borg cube with a corner taken off. So this internal block is much more shaped and kind of adds more to being off balance than the reality does. The dark code is also kind of like shaped more heavily like this, but also it's not necessarily as strong because it doesn't have such a heavy dense core. It has more shape to it and stuff like that. It's just one of those interesting things. I personally just don't think I'm at the level yet where I could be able to call out exactly what this means, but still, you know, kind of getting there. All right, so looking at numbers, we can see here that the 15 pound, which is what I'm throwing, and notice, you know, asymmetrical core, pearl reactive, and the sanded, right? Those are probably the most important things. But the RG for the 15 pound is a 2.48, you know, similar to what we see for, you know, all three of these balls, which is why I wanted to compare them against each other. And then if you look at the diff being a 0.53, right? So kind of closer to the realities a little bit more, not quite as high as the dark code. And just for review, RG, the lower the number, the earlier it grabs, so that it has to do with length. And then the diff is the hook potential. So you know, it's really interesting because, like what we saw in the graph, the dark code goes longer and has less of a hook potential, and it's a pearl. So even though the number of the diff may be higher, it may not necessarily be as good as the alter reality, which is also pearl with a higher hook on it. And that sort of, even though it has the, you know, the lower diff, but the lower RG. So, you know, just these relationships are interesting. Now, what I wanted to point out again about the internal diff is, look at these numbers for reality. So 0.018 for the two realities and 0.020 for the dark code. And then for the hammer offset is a 0.008, right? So this is a significantly lower number than these three other balls, and that's an interesting thing to make note of. So what is internal diff exactly? So let's look at bowlingball.com. Their website is not exactly mobile friendly because a bunch of the text goes off, so I'll try to make this work. I'm just gonna pull this out a little bit, which is off screen. So basically it says, the higher the measurement of internal differential, the greater the asymmetry and the lower the intermediate differential. The lower the asymmetry of a given bowling ball. What does that mean exactly? It means the greater the asymmetry, the more area is created at the break point, and the ball will respond to friction faster than a symmetrical ball. So the greater the asymmetry, the more area is created at the break point, and the ball will respond to friction faster. So what I read that as is the 3D will react less than the realities and less than the dark code. So off the back from those numbers and that comparison, what I'm going to basically get off thinking is that the 3D offset will react later. So it almost is creating angularness, even though it shares the similar RG and diff. And since it's a pearl cover, it'll want to go long, but since it's sanded, it's going to grab a little earlier. So it's kind of like trying to mix these two worlds of length and angularness and early grab and break potential, and you know, instead of having to make this choice between, in my case, the alter reality and the reality, it kind of tends to, it's trying to straddle both lines, and like, will that be a good thing or will that be a bad thing? And just, you know, TLDR, I actually would say I'm going to replace the reality in my bag with the 3D offset, because I am not a bowler that creates a lot of action. I'm a tweener, you know, I'm a low tweener. And so having a ball that has that same control and grab that the reality has, but a little bit longer and with a little bit more angular at the end is really, really good for someone like me. And so sometimes when I'm throwing the reality, I get no action and it slides out, and you know, I end up leaving like a 1, 2, 1, 2, 4 or whatever, right? Because it'll kind of come in way behind the head and way too low. And so this ball, just from what I noticed, is able to come back around and still have the control that a reality has. So anyway, so let's get to the videos. I will say, again, the fact that this is my side gig is not doing me any favors with these videos. I bowled on a Sunday with Specs, who is my name for the 3D offset, like 3D X-ray Specs. God, I'm such a nerd. But by bowling on the weekend, I kind of don't get like the ideal lane conditions, and for these videos, the lane was really pushed down, so I don't think I'm able to show exactly how good it works down lane, but I do have some good news in that I will be making a second video for this, and I'll leave the details out because I'm really excited for what I'm going to do, and I think it'll be a nice surprise to post. But I'm going to make a second video for this, and I think I'll be able to show that a bit more often, a bit more. But what's good now is that at least I can compare these three types of balls in a less than ideal situation, right? I mean, sure, it's great to always have perfect lanes, but if you're bowling a tournament and it's the third game and you're on your third set of lanes, you're gonna have to deal with crappy lanes. And so this kind of, maybe more worthwhile, maybe it's not, we'll see. So I'm just gonna try to go through all the spec shots, how those went, and then I'm going to go ahead and pull up the other shots and try to compare them, right? So on that first shot, I was doing 24 and 5, so I was trying to get the ball out a little bit and have it come back in. Left a 10 pin on that. On this video, I'm going to try to go out to the 11 board, move my feet a little bit further out, trying to sort of like move left, 4 and 4 basically, and try to kind of catch it more up the middle instead of working out a little bit. That line wasn't so good. I didn't quite get it kind of came back a little bit too much on me. So this one, I moved it even further in, just to kind of show where that line was, and keeping my feet on 27, throwing this ball. And I think this one actually ended up being a decent shot. Yeah, kind of went out a little bit, still stayed down the midline again. So yeah, this actually ended up being a terrible shot. And so, this was what I was kind of getting at with these lanes that I was on, is that there was no comeback, because there's a good amount of push down. And so really, even though the ball kind of broke at the end, it kind of didn't keep going. It sort of flattened out and died. So that wasn't exactly the best. So instead, my next shot, I threw it a little bit further out this time to try to get out of that middle oil, that push down and everything that house balls do to a lane and make it kind of grosser, or urethanes can do as well. So I got that one out a little bit more, and it came back in a bit better of a shot. Feet still on 27, so really just a matter of moving the shot out. Again, this is a perfect example of the box of oil that I'm going to trademark someday, and just the ability, just knowing that if you get it out, it comes back in more. So the answer to having a shot that doesn't quite come back into the pocket isn't always just to move further left as a right-hander. Sometimes you need to get the ball further out so it can come back in more, which was a pretty tough lesson for me to learn over my life. And this last shot was going even further out to the left, and I wanted to do this to show the ability of the hammer offset to be able to come back in, right? So with Duca, for example, because it's a pearl and because of the massiveness of the block, I can throw this shot sometimes instead of being to the right, and it reacts way better because of the snap and the saving up of energy with the pearl cover, as opposed to something that's a little sanded, so it kind of releases its energy a little bit earlier as it's trying to grab the lane, and see, it came back, and, but not quite as much as I would want it to. So that's that for those sort of outlines, which is rather the inlines. Yeah, those were the inlines, kind of coming across the lane, kind of going through the oil and popping out on the side of the top hat oil pattern. And then next, let me get to the you know, those up and out lines. You know, I really have to figure out the right words for these because I just feel like I'm making things up, and you know, that's it. So just to start off, you can see my feet on 27. I'm sorry, on 22. So I'm on 22 right there. In the last video, I explained how to project the ball and being able to kind of come back to this line where I'm more straight ahead, more squared up, pointing the ball at the pins as opposed to having an outturned body like I usually do when I'm trying to work that inline. So here it's probably going to go over 10 and 10, which is where you want to start when you're checking out a line like this. And unfortunately that came up a little bit too hard, and you can see sort of the grippiness of the 3D offset. You can see here it's already starting to pull back over from that shot. You see it's heading out and then starts changing its trajectory, in mid lane, which is good. I mean, it shows the strength of the ball, and that it's not going to be super snappy the same way that the altered reality may be. And even though in different conditions without pushdown, maybe it would have some snap to it. I have to sort of feel this ball a little bit more, but it does have the ability to come back in. So it really is an interesting mix of the two, of the reality and the altered reality. And it just in my feel, and just those are two balls that I use all the time. So I'm really pretty familiar with how they go. Then this next one, just kind of got the ball out a bit more, still feet on 22 rather, and got the ball closer to the 8 than the 10. Again, another trying to like do that outline, and it kind of worked. And something to point out is on these push down patterns, or when the lanes get kind of burnt up or whatever, it is so useful to have this starting line, this up and out line. So all right, so that's that for all the spec shots. Let's kind of take a look now at comparing a few of the shots between the other ones. So let me do this 24 and 5 line, and I'm going to compare it against the reality. So let's kind of run through this one again. This was the very first shot that I threw. Again, feet, around 27 or so, 26, somewhere, just a light lead to the left side. And I'm throwing it at 5. This is going to go out a pretty fair amount. And it came back in. I'd say that was probably one of the better inline shots that I threw. It kind of, the lane read really nicely. I'm just kind of a chicken bleep when it comes to throwing the ball at the gutter, and so sometimes I get a little too nervous throwing at that line. There's some guys and bowlers that I see on Instagram that they work that 5-4-3-2 board all the time, and it gives me heart palpitations. So okay, so here's that dream line that's going along the same. I didn't throw quite out so much, but still pretty similar, and a little bit to the left of that feet, as you can see, sort of on that 26 board again, throwing it out, and a good shape to it. I would say pretty similar to what the hammer was doing. Let's see if I can get these two lined up with each other real quick. So let's see here. So yeah, so we have this break around there, right, kind of popping back in, and with the reality a bit closer to there, right, kind of in the similar vicinity, right? We have them kind of basically the same down lane, but I will say that the return action for the 3D offset was a bit more angular and a bit more kind of coming back in. as opposed to the reality, which is really such a smooth line, and it's just so strong and controlled and everything like that. So again, pretty similar. Like I said, the lines of the 3D offset does remind me a fair amount of the regular reality. So this is with Duca, and Duca, my altered reality. Let's take a look at this shot real quick, and then we'll do a comparison. Again, the similar line, right about 25. I'm going to throw it out past the 10 board into the dry that was on these lanes, went out, and then didn't really come back with quite so much ferocity as either of these balls. So this is a great example of where a 3D offset can outperform a traditional pearl, with that's also asymmetrical and fairly strong. So again, just here with the pearl, again, it's a hard comparison because the 3D did go out significantly more. So maybe it's a bit unfair, but still, it kind of had that decent line. That it was able to come back while again the Duca just never kind of got its footing, and that's expected with a pearl if there's a lot of push down, because pearls, being a weak cover, just kind of may not be able to overcome that situation. Okay, and then the last ball being Atom Smasher, the Dark Code. Now, as I said in the video, this isn't just a dark code. Actually, Rob Green put some surface on it. So in a certain way, this is fairly similar to what the 3D offset is, but not exactly similar, And just, I will say the offset I felt was a bit stronger. But let's take a look at this shot. This one does kind of go out hopefully to a similar area as Specs did. Yeah, it kind of gets out just as much, and a good shape as well. Kind of, I'd say fairly similar, to be honest. But as opposed to the 3D offset, which again had a pretty strong reaction, right? So let's kind of watch that again. A pretty good snapback, pretty good a turn on that corner. As opposed to the Dark Code, which came back around a bit smoother, just a bit smoother. Now, if I was throwing it without the cover being altered, would that be different? I don't know. It is interesting, but again, this is why I really do like the Specs, and why it's going to get into my bag, because it is strong, but it still has that back end, which for me is hard to find sometimes. So very, very, very good for a tweener bowler like myself. Okay, let's take a look at the other decent shot. This was the 27-7. So this was kind of going out again, but then coming a fairly good amount across the lanes, just to see that action again, and the ability for the 3D offset to kind of come back. So again, it's pretty smooth. It doesn't quite hit its way into the pocket like it could, coming in behind the head pin. This really had the potential to leave that that 7 pin there. You can see the head pin kind of almost missing if it wasn't for the 4. So that was, but still a good shot. Again, that you can notice the quick, the very noticeable change in dimension of that shot. So I really liked that a lot. I thought it was very useful movement. Again, probably would make up for a mistake of throwing it out too far, right? Because bowling is about expanding your margin of error in certain ways, and so that really would help out. Okay, so against Dream, let's see if I have one that kind of can make it out, and I don't see one that's similar to this besides that first shot that I threw. we can just review against that though again, because it is useful. So again with Dream, let's just look at that going out to the 7 board, similar again to where that last shot went, a little bit further right, so it wouldn't need to go quite as angular. But again with Dream, notice again the loopiness of that shot, right? It's so soft. It's just such a soft, controlled action that you get from Dream. And then Duca, also, let's see, I have a shot from Duca, which is the Altered Reality. Oh, come on. Okay. So let's look at this here. So with Duca, again, this one's going to be 27 out to 6, basically that same line that we were getting for the 3D spec. Duca going out, and then again, just dying on the shot. Just really can't make up for that cover. So again, just a great example of why you need to have a ball that can react to the lanes when they are less than ideal conditions. So really happy to show that in this comparison. Really thankful that to show where Spec's strong suit is. I mean, this really shows off where it is. And then last with Atom Smasher, this is a little bit more inside with Atom Smasher. This one's more 27 to 10, but it's kind of following that same kind of moving more to the left angle right there. And we can see the action. I would expect it to feel similar to Specs, but again, like it cannot overcome the conditions of this lane. Right, so it kind of just goes really high into the pocket, just less than ideal. While again, Specs handled it. Of course, though, this might have to do with the fact that I couldn't, it didn't get out as far, so it kind of didn't pop out of the oil as much. But just to remind you, here is that one shot with Specs where it was a little bit tighter and more, kind of like, 25, 26 or so. To like that same area, the 11, the 10, 11, and see, Specs comes in high because it overcomes it. So again, just really good comparison to show how it will be able to grab. And then the last series of shots I want to show are this sort of like the up and out line. So remember, let's look again with Specs. This is when it went out enough to be able to hit the pocket. Again, just a really gorgeous movement, I would say, with trying that line and trying this technique. It actually felt super smooth. Typically when I throw this shot, there is no snap in anything I show because my hand is straightened out enough that I'm sort of nullifying it. So I really like that line with Specs, and then to show you with Dream, a similar line. You can see basically that same technique, feet in basically the same area, 22, 23, somewhere around there. Everything straight, everything together, and I think this shot ended up pretty good, to be honest. Yeah, so right over 10 and 10, and a little bit high on the low on the shot. So the 1 kind of goes a bit too heavy into the 7, leaves that 4. But I thought it was pretty good. The movement of the ball was basically null. This shot is this type of shot is made to grab early, and since that's Reality's specialty, it grabs early. So just a pretty nice, gentle, sweeping shot there, which was pretty good with Specs as well. But I would say with Specs it was a bit better. Like just Specs handled it a little bit better, and on that 8 board too, as opposed to the 10. So I think it gave a bit more room for Specs to sort of make its way into the pocket. Again with Duca, going up and out, this one kind of had a closer shape to the 3D offset on its hook. And incidentally, I think this was just kind of one of those days where throwing this type of shot really worked out best. So let's kind of show them side by side if I can do this quick enough. So that goes up and out. Yeah, you know, really similar movement. Again, Duca is able to make a kind of big break there, right? That's a Duca's specialty. And then with the 3D offset, I know I'm blocking the camera a little bit, but you can see a little bit less breaky, a little bit more smooth. So that is a good example of the difference between a pearl and a pearl being sanded. Really like that shot for this type of lane condition. It worked out great. And then last one with Atom Smasher. Let's kind of get this going here. Again, feet on 23. These shots were all really similar. And that's kind of cool too, that you can just kind of count on where you're gonna stand no matter what ball you use. Get out to like 9 or 8. And you know, even though left the 10 pin, I still really like that shot. Doesn't have, let's see if we can even see it. I think I unfortunately covered it with my arm there, but I think it was a little bit, it broke similarly to the to Duca as well, and a little bit less smooth. So just a part in that role where Atom Smasher is a bit more reminiscent of being the pearl, with going late, with going with its numbers, where the offset is a bit earlier, a bit more like reality. So, you know, again, more of that sort of like in-between realm that Specs seems to sit in. So yeah, so that's it for this ball review. I would say really like Specs, especially for someone like myself who is not a big rev person. I don't really turn the ball a lot. It can make up for some deficiencies where reality could tend to not do it because it's too strong. So it grabs the lane too early and it's a bit too strong. But then also more control than the Alter reality, where it really is still going to have a nice movement and a nice shape to its hook. And yeah, I really like this ball a lot. It is going to probably be my first ball out of the bag now. So make room, Duca. And yeah, so all right, everyone, tell me what you think. You know, I love the feedback for what you think of these things. And yeah, again, visit AJ's Pro Shop to get your own Hammer 3D offset and any other selection of ball. I think the prices are really good. And yeah, and talk to you soon. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye.